Well, it's official. Disney is dead at the box office for the entire month of December. Wish has essentially fallen out of the top 5, the Marvels out of the top who even cares anymore. Thankfully, Godzilla and The Boy and the Heron, well, they're filling in the gap enough as much as they can. Japan to the rescue, I suppose. But in terms of what theater owners can expect, well, they might be on the lookout for an entire industry collapse. And that's a real shame because theater owners didn't do anything wrong. This is the fault of Hollywood, and Hollywood has lost the market. Today we're talking about just how far Hollywood has fallen, and we're going to be talking about the fact that Disney is so far down at this point that not even major Star Wars news registers a blip on the radar of entertainment because people just don't care. Hello and howdy folks, welcome back to the WDW Pro channel, a place where we round up Hollywood and send them through the rodeo of common sense. They cannot ride the bull, but we can, and we teach them how to do it and make money again. That is the hope, that is the endeavor, as we explain entertainment and keep you ahead of the culture curve. Joining us is Lauren of ThatPartPlace.com, and who has become a phenomenal addition to the members' exclusive content, where he and Tommy Tables and LW Ghost have become something known as the Genre Guys. Lauren, welcome back to the channel, and thank you for what you've been doing for members. It's been phenomenal. I plan to release some of those videos around Christmas for the general public because they're just so good, I can't hold them back.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you, Lauren. Let's dive straight into the content, folks. We're starting out today in Variety. Here at the top, J. Kim Murphy, the author here, and the title, Box Office, The Boy and the Heron rises to number 1 in North America with projected $10 million debut. And folks, if you think a $10 million debut is small for being number 1, well, that has to do with the fall of Disney. We'll get into that in just a moment. Hayao Miyazaki's The Boy and the Heron looks to soar atop domestic charts this weekend after earning about $5.4 million across Friday and various preview screenings, playing in 2,205 theaters. Makes one wonder what would happen if the theaters were not contractually obligated to be showing Disney movies instead. This thing could have had 4,000 theaters, then it could have had $20 million perhaps, who knows. The G-Kids release has the benefit of IMAX and other premium large format auditoriums to boost those numbers. It's another modest win for theaters in a marketplace that may not ever recover to pre-COVID levels. Stop there, folks, because we need to analyze it and explain it. Lauren, there's no reason that movie theaters should not be returning to pre-COVID levels. The rate of inflation means that even if they have dropped 30% of their audience overall, they should still be making the same amount of money. So there's no reason that theaters should not recover. The problem is that the Walt Disney Company, which was largely subsidizing a lot of the rest of Hollywood by having these big billion-dollar blockbusters, is completely absent. And so the only way that this that theaters don't recover is if, one, Disney fails to ever go back to doing what they were doing at the successful rate they had achieved, or two, if no other company fills in that gap. So, Lauren, do you think that do you think this is it for the theaters and for the box office? Do you think we're going to be in a subpar level compared to 2019, 2018 forever?
I think if they continue to try and focus on forcing delivery to the streaming services, then yes, that's going to be a real problem. People are willing to wait a little bit to see something at a lesser cost, especially in this kind of an economy. Even though the ticket prices are up, that goes against your monthly budget. And everybody is watching that real closely now. You have to make sure that your dollar is going somewhere, that you feel like you're getting benefit for it and not taking away from something else.
It's a great point. I see nothing to argue with on that, but I'm hopeful. I think there's hope springs eternal, and who knows what we'll be doing in 10 years. One thing I can tell you though is that this weekend everybody's going to watch Japanese pieces of art, and they're art, and that's different than what we've been getting out of the West, out of American studios, which I would say is usually far less than art. The Boy and the Heron is going to be number 1. Goes on to say that see last weekend's openings of Godzilla -1 staying in 3rd place for its sophomore outing. And Godzilla -1, according to this article, if we read a little bit farther down, only going to have about a 30% drop. That's amazing for a film that is completely in Japanese with English subtitles. It's very difficult for a movie like that to have any kind of run domestically here in the States, but it's going to do it. The big failure this week outside of Disney, and we're about to get to the Disney side of this because it really is the story, and it should be, Lauren, it should be the story, I think, of the decade, is the absolute collapse of Disney and the impact that will have on Hollywood. Hollywood really has not yet reckoned with what this means, because it means that every other studio is going to have to step up dramatically, or else you'll see a collapse of the industry. But Renaissance, Beyonce, the big failure here, because that one dropped something like 80%. Dropping 80% is just no good. And frankly, it's a little embarrassing compared to Taylor Swift. I don't think you nor I, Lauren, are big Taylor Swift or Beyonce fans, but it's worth noting that unfortunately, it doesn't appear that theaters are going to be able to survive on concert-style releases. The Taylor Swift thing may have been unique.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's fair. It's fun for an event thing, especially if you have a mega star that you can get young audiences in for. But young audiences generally don't have a lot of spending money, and they'll turn out for their favorite stars. But you can't produce one of these things every week. You still need to have the other content on the plate that you can draw a general audience in with.
absolutely. All right, so let's take a look at second place. Is going to be The Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I'm still holding out, hoping that Godzilla can take that spot. We're talking about the difference in about $1 million in projection, so it's definitely possible. For The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, this is, it's not a good box office for it. It's struggling to make anywhere close to what Hunger Games used to make. When you see that domestic haul will reach 135, I mean, that's what the Hunger Games used to make in a single weekend. So the idea that this is good is wrong, but in a field of absolute terror when it comes to the box office, it's sufficient for number two. And I really think it speaks to the fact that Hollywood has just absolutely, they don't know what they're doing with this month, and they didn't know what to do with No Men November, or Slowvember as some have called it. 2024 could be worse. I'm really worried about Hollywood entertainment and theaters, period. Godzilla -1 at 7.9 million. Remember, folks, that is, number one, this thing is being pushed out until late December now. It was originally planned to only stay for 2 weeks, so they're trying to milk it for all they can, and good for them. Only a 31% decline for Godzilla -1. If you've not seen it yet, it's the best wide release film of the year, in my opinion. Go see it. And what I think is so interesting about this weekend, in a weekend that has a dearth of anyone going to see anything at the theaters, is that the most fascinating part actually sits at the bottom here. Fourth place is likely to go to Trolls Band Together with only $6.2 million, but still just a 21% drop, so it could have legs. Maybe it's going to be another Puss in Boots. But it's the fifth place slot that's so interesting, Lauren, and that is because Renaissance, dropping 85% weekend to weekend. Good grief. But dropping 85%, is now in a fight, and I think it's going to bump Wish out of fifth place. That will mean that Disney is out of the top five for the entire month of December remaining. I don't know that that has ever happened in the last, 20 years. And, the problem is, Lauren, is that when this happens, there's nobody else filling the gap yet. Wonka's not going to do it. The Color Purple's not going to do it. And so until somebody fills in this gap, there is a huge vacancy from Disney not being there to help the theater survive. And this could be really bad. This could be really, really bad. And you could start to see theaters going under. Lauren, what do you think about the fact that the Marvels and Wish are, if folks, go click on the link to the Variety article. They don't even mention Disney movies, and they don't want to. Lauren, what do you make of the fact that the trades are just ignoring Disney now? It's that bad.
Well, I think that everybody knows that there's blood in the water. You have the revelations coming out of the audit or surrounding the Reedy Creek Improvement District. I think this has got everybody a little bit spooked because there's likely some criminality that is going to have to be investigated here. And because of that, I think that we're not to a post-Iger period yet. But I think that everybody knows it's going to be happening in the near future. We'll be interested to see if he can actually survive to that 2026 date that he set for himself. But after that, when you get to the post-Iger period, I think you're going to be something. You're going to see something a little bit like Disney in the late '70s, where they went through a bit of an identity crisis. They had lost some of the magic in animation. They still had Robin Hood and the Jungle Book and a few things like that, but it wasn't living up to their glory days. And you had them experimenting with different mediums and different styles of entertainment. And I think Disney's going to have to do something like that. They cannot rely on endless sequels and purchasing other people's IP. They're going to have to do something original, and they're going to have to decide what's that going to be. I don't know that we're going to know that for probably another 2 or 3 years yet, but they need to set some other type of creative direction if they want to get out of this death spiral.
I'm trying to think, Lauren, of a time when a Disney animated film has dropped this hard, this fast. I mean, we just watched the Marvels do it, and in a year that has seen flop after flop for the Walt Disney Company, easily totaling over $1 billion in losses, Wish is dropping faster than even I anticipated. This is, but I can't think of an animated film from Disney. I mean, Strange World opened up really poorly, but Wish opened up almost as poorly and is dropping, it seems, faster. So I can't think of any movie in Disney's history that has failed in terms of just accelerating out of the theaters like this. A Disney animated movie in December, dropping out of 5th place in week 3 is just amazing. But I think that the apathy and the antipathy for Disney really is throughout all 4 major franchises. And so I want to show you, I think, the epitome of that, Lauren, going into an area that originally this is what you came on the channel for, was to talk about Star Wars. Of course, we found out after that you're a genius in many other domains, and well, we're all thankful for that, the crowd out there as well. But take a look at this. This is I'm not going to talk about this for the reason most people out there think I'm going to talk about it. But this was out of the Bespin Bulletin on December 8th, and I think the Bespin Bulletin is excellent. We've used it in the past. It has a great track record. They really do their homework, and so I don't want to say anything negative about the Bespin Bulletin. Folks, please don't take this that way. But I'm very skeptical of this claim. But that said, let's read just a bit. The Mandalorian Season 4 reportedly being turned into a movie, next Star Wars film to be released. It says Jeff Snyder of the Hot Mic, and so it's coming from Jeff Snyder, who also has a great track record and who I greatly respect. But again, I'm still very skeptical of this claim. Has taken to his podcast to share an update on the next Star Wars movie, which might come as a shock to some readers, but not to all that have been following this site in recent months. Goes on to talk about that The Mandalorian Season 4 may be a movie, may not go on Disney Plus, may go straight to the big screens. Lauren, here's what's amazing to me. This is what shocks. This would 3 years ago, 4 years ago, this would have been huge news. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody cares about this. This just, it just went thud as soon as this news broke, because, and that's the death of a franchise. The death of a franchise is that this comes out. This probably is my guess is this is Lucasfilm testing the water. So they send this out to some different people so it'll spread out, get a feel for it. And the worst possible answer came back, right? It's not that fans heard about it and said, oh, that really sucked. I want to watch it on Disney Plus. I can't believe they're doing this. That'll be way less runtime. We deserve to have 10 hours. And it didn't come back as, oh, that's awesome. Finally, we're going to get the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda on the big screen. It came back as, so, Lauren, your thoughts on Star Wars now, not even getting anything out of this?
So I got a whole different bunch of directions that I could go with this, and I think the place to start is they're dealing with a huge problem that is similar to what they dealt with the sequel trilogy, which is that they cut off their own legs with Season 3. They ended Season 3 with the Mandalorian settled on a little homestead with Baby Yoda, apparently happy, and the planet of the Mandalore essentially restored to Mandalorian control.
This is usually when the game over and the credits start to roll.
Yeah, it's like you have cut off most of your narrative threads, and that's one of the things that the sequel trilogy created the real problem for as well, which is that, okay, somehow in a 30-year span of time, the Empire morphed into the First Order, and nothing in between really mattered because the Emperor comes back. It's the same problem you have with the Mandalorian. So when you're in that position, you've got a pretty important choice to make, and that is, do we try and stretch this out to another season when the last season was already embarrassing? And two, if you don't, you have to do something like a movie to definitively end this thing. And that means that you're rushing it. Now, one of the reasons that I would cast doubt on this rumor as well is because of what Jon Favreau said, which was that he had all of season 4 written before the strikes started.
Right,
Now,
right.
that goes back to the question of what exactly is Jon Favreau doing right now?
And Lauren, we've heard quite a bit of scuttlebutt surrounding Pedro Pascal and the fact that he may not be on set for filming. He may be treating this as if it's a voiceover kind of deal, like a cartoon. That's the same basically as season 3, but it may be more so now. I'm here to tell you, if it's a movie, I got a feeling Pedro wants to be there and get the full benefits in his contract of being on set all the time for a box office release.
My sense of things is that he has very rarely been in the costume anyway, and so
That's correct.
I get the sense that it's been mostly voice work, and so
Yes.
I don't see that as being a major change.
Except in a movie, I bet he would want to be there, and so I think it would create a different dynamic in the
Sure,
news
yeah,
releases about that, the articles we would be reading. It would be
yeah. I
about
mean,
him being on set in the chair as other people were in the suit.
yeah, and Pedro, he's ambitious and he has a trajectory that he wants his career to take, and I think that that's probably more in movies than TV, and that's fair enough. If you're going to be working, then you want to have the prestige stuff. That's fine, but I think season 3 of The Mandalorian killed the trajectory so badly that I think if you try and do a movie, the danger there as well is that you're going to have to report on the box office, and you're going to have the exact same problem that you're going to have with this Ray movie that they're trying to push. All that they can do right now is embarrass themselves. I don't
Yep.
think there's anything that they can do that's going to put Star Wars back in a positive light. There needs to be a complete change of leadership, of creative control, and a new direction. And until they're willing to embrace that, and that means all the way to the top of Disney, including Iger,
It
you're not
also
going to
gets
fix this mess.
it also gets tricky, Lauren, because Jon Favreau is tied to contractually tied to releasing these as seasons on Disney Plus. So are you going to pay him a huge sum of money to get this thing into the box office? Is he going to be the director? Is Dave Filoni going to be creatively in control of it? Well, he should be. He's the head of creative at Lucasfilm.
That's already been stated, and I continue to believe, despite what has been said, I don't think Favreau was in control of season 3, and I am not
No, I
convinced
agree
that those
totally.
were
Yeah.
his scripts. So
No,
I think
I'm with you.
I think Favreau has been quietly pushed to the side. He's probably still getting paid for his contract, but I don't think that the show's been in his control since the end of season 2.
Now, Lauren, I want to come back though to the main topic here, which is we've watched Japan take over the box office this weekend and last weekend. They're not these films, The Boy and the Heron and Godzilla are not doing massive numbers, but they're not doing poorly either. But the big deal is, of course, that they have budgets that are so small and the artistry is so impressive that I don't see how Hollywood can compete. And when we look at Star Wars, we're talking about, just to put a Star Wars movie out, minimum $200 million budget just for production alone. For many of these Disney movies, Wish, we've been told by Film Threat, Chris Gore and Alan Ing have had their sources say that Wish had a $250 million production budget. The Marvels, we believe, based on tax filings and based on what Valiant Renegade has been reporting, that's going to be over $300 million in production alone. And so the issue is that Disney is there's two negatives here. Disney is simultaneously working with budgets which are absolutely insane, and simultaneous to that, they're working with a market that is turning away from them at a level that is just what would we say here? Because I don't think that's it's an official boycott. It's an inherent repudiation.
You remember back in the 80s when there was the scare about poison pills and ibuprofen bottles?
Yes, and what was the tire? Remember when this was like a decade ago? Firestone, was that it? Was Firestone tires? They were
Might have
having
been.
issues, and suddenly nobody wanted to ride on a Firestone tire, and they had to change the name and all of that.
Yep.
I think we're there with Disney. Nobody wants to ride on that. Ride with them into the movie theaters, and maybe not even on Disney Plus. So, Lauren, it's so bad. I'll tell you how bad it is. We did a video yesterday where we were reading about The Little Mermaid, and one of the articles said that it was a record-breaking movie, that it was the biggest Disney Plus movie ever. And so I clicked on the press release from whence they had found that, and discovered that the press release from Disney in the fine print had said that it was actually the biggest Disney Plus movie release since Hocus Pocus 2. And that's where we're at, I think. When your big blockbuster that cost $300 million, not including marketing, can't beat Hocus Pocus 2, you're in trouble. And I don't think they've got a movie outside of Deadpool 3 that they feel real sure about breaking Hocus Pocus 2 anytime soon. That's a problem.
No, I don't see anything on the slate going forward that elicits any kind of excitement. And I think a lot of it is because I don't see any evidence that they've got any genuine talent there anymore. And
Except for Deadpool 3, Lauren. I'm going to say that folks out there, there's a trust in Ryan Reynolds that he'll do that right.
Yeah, but I mean that's a very rare situation where you have a man who almost single-handedly willed the first Deadpool into existence by leveraging fan excitement about his enthusiasm for the character, and he's got the box office chops that lets him kind of exert a little bit of influence on the studio, and that's not something that a lot of people have.
So, Lauren, here's my question to you as we wrap up this conversation. With Japan able to produce this kind of art for budgets that are 10, 12, 15 times less than what our studios can do it for, why in the world would we just not watch Japanese content brought over to America and, dub it, put it in subtitles, whatever, but why would we not watch what Japan is making, since apparently they're not infected with whatever this woke mind virus is?
I wouldn't limit it just to Japan. I know that my parents watch an awful lot of material on Amazon Prime from the BBC and lots of short series dramas there. I think the difference is just what you said. Some of these other filmmakers in other countries are still treating this as though it's an art, where the studios here for the last decade have been treating it as just product. And that shows. They don't care for the material. They just care that you're consuming it. And I
I'm
think
gonna
what
I'm gonna
we're
thank you, Lauren, because when you said that, a light bulb popped in my head. I hate to interrupt you, but when you said that, I'm gonna say this: if we find out that The Mandalorian season 4 has been turned into a movie, the only reason that would happen? Merchandising. If the merchandising has collapsed for Baby Yoda and Mandalorian, and that would be all of Star Wars, then it's over. That's why they would try to do a movie, is to try to say, "Oh, please, please keep buying toys, please, please, we beg of you, buy the Grogu plushes." That's the only reason I can see. So thank you for that. You're exactly right. It would not be to make art; it would be to push product.
Yep. And I think that's true for a lot of the studios now. They got so comfortable with the idea that if you had a particular name on something, the audience would show up no matter what. They don't think that we are discerning customers. They think that we're consumers. And so I think it's important that we start using that term and reminding them we are the customer. We get to demand what we want because that's our privilege. If we don't like what you're offering, we're not obligated to give you money. And until you start doing so, we're going to withhold it. And I think that's the only way you're going to change their behavior.
And I would suggest, Lauren, another lesson Hollywood needs to learn is that we're really, really smart. The market, the consumer, the American is very, very smart. And I think they have misjudged how quickly the marketplace can readjust to Hollywood and its hubris. And it may not have anything to do with intellect, Hollywood. If I'm speaking directly to the directors and the studios and all of you, I think it has to do with values. The values of Hollywood are distinctly different from the average American. And that may mean that the average American doesn't want to live the lifestyle of Hollywood. And Hollywood people may look down upon the rubes of flyover country. But I would suggest that has very little to do with actual competency or intellect, and it has everything to do with values. And I think maybe the marketplace has become much, much smarter and ethical than the entertainment companies, and that's something to pay attention to.
A lot of
Lauren?
that has to do with the economic times that you're in, too. It's like, I think people in good times, they'll be okay with paying for a bad movie. Every once in a while, you're going to have a stinker. You're not going to like it. But once the studio starts kind of saying, yeah, it was a bad movie, but these suckers will pay for it. That's when people start getting a little more careful about where they're spending their money. It's one thing to give somebody your money and feel like they made an honest attempt at trying to entertain you. It's another thing to give them money to insult you. And that's when people will start drying up their support.
That's right. But we sneer not at the audience here on the Pro Channel. No, we value each and every person who stops by. And folks, if you would like to help us continue our endeavor in explaining entertainment and keeping people ahead of the culture curve, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe. And when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. This is not a conversation between two people. Nay, this is a dialogue amongst an entire community. So tell us what you think down below. What impresses you most about this box office? Is it the takeover by Japanese companies of the American box office in Japan, or is it the disappearance of Disney, dropping out of potentially the top 5 with two films that were supposed to run all the way through New Year's? Definitely not doing that. The Marbles is not flying, and Wish is not fulfilling anyone's wishes at Disney nor in the marketplace. Lauren, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope folks will read articles from you at thatparkplace.com, as well as checking out your YouTube channel, where you continue to dive deep into the old Star Wars lore and extended universe. Back when it was a lot of fun, you're making it fun once more, and folks are reminiscing right along with you. And ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to leave, say it along with me if you know it. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
No, hey Flo, what you doing? Thinking about Rome?
No, I wasn't. But thanks. Now I lost the game.
Dang it. Now I lost the game. Oh, no. Well, now you're a double loser.
Hey guys, you know what would help you in your grief? Forgetting those things and filling your mind with articles from thatparkplace.com and using that website as a launching pad to get you lost in thought with all of the team from there.
Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Yeah. Oh, well, Flora, would you look down here?
I hate you.